Welcome to a wet noodle-like new episode of the Demonic Compendium, the show where I discuss the mythology, design, and game history of your favorite Megami Tensei demons. Happy Chinese New Year, everybody! It's officially the Year of the Snake, which is actually my birth year, so that makes me old. So let's just ignore that, because today we're talking about Mizuchi. If you like what I do on the show, please consider commenting, subscribing, maybe even checking out the Patreon. It honestly does help a lot. Now, before we begin, I know the question on everyone's mind is, why am I not talking about Jotun Sha for the Year of the Snake? The Chinese snake that is very clearly super obviously a snake. Well, because I already did an episode on that demon, so we're looking at a different snake. Mizuchi is a type of Japanese water spirit that can roughly translate as water spirit. It serves a similar role to serpents from other pantheons, but most notably seems to be based on the Jiaolong from Chinese folklore. While the Mizuchi is considered a minor deity with dragon-like features, it is sometimes referred to as a snake, which air quotes modern Megaten seems to focus on. There are a few different stories related to the Mizuchi, one of the most famous being a passage in the Nihon Shoki, or Chronicles of Japan, from around 380 AD. A large water snake dragon that could apparently spit out poison was corrupting the Takahashi River, which was one of the main drainage rivers in that prefecture, so yeah, that was bad. A warrior named Agatomori vowed to slay this poisonous snake and challenged the Mizuchi by throwing 3 gourds into the river. Agatomori told the Mizuchi that he would kill the snake if it couldn't submerge all 3 gourds underwater. Mizuchi apparently has trouble saying no to a challenge and tried its best, even transforming itself into a deer to try and make it easier, but it still failed, so Agatomori killed it. In some stories, Mizuchi has powerful illusory abilities, so I do wonder if Mizuchi was actually able to shapeshift into a deer, or just create the illusion that it had done so. It turns out, though, that there were multiple Mizuchi in the river, so Agatomori killed them all so badly that the water turned into snake blood, which I guess is a step up from poison. Mizuchi's Compendium entry from Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster refers to them as a water spirit in Japanese mythology. It appears around lakes full of fish. It has the ability to use illusions to trick its enemies. Design-wise, Mizuchi is Snek. He's just a little wet Snek. I love it. It's so beautiful in its simplicity. I like that in the artwork you can see the bubbles inside of it, so it's not just blue, dabba-dee-dabba-die, but distinctly made out of water. The translucent model also helps make this very clear, and yeah, it's a snake, made of water. I love it. However, this design, while the one most Western fans may be accustomed to, is actually a massively toned-down version of its original SMT2 design, where it was more torrential, I'd say. The design indicated that the water was swirling through its body, creating wakes, it had a much more sinister face, and even had multiple torrents flowing from it. This design would later get updated art for soul hackers, and even had a 3D model in Shin Megami Tensei 9 that we'd never see again, since one game later in Nocturne we got Snek. There's also a Demi-Kids version, which is perfectly fine. It's clearly not made of water like some of the others, but features fins and frills around its head and tail, giving it a somewhat aquatic appearance that I do think works well enough for what this figure is supposed to be. As far as game history goes, there's really only so much to talk about when you've got a demon that hasn't had a new appearance in the franchise since before the last Year of the Snake rolled around. One of Mizuchi's earliest notable roles was in Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, where the more torrential version of Mizuchi appears as one of the demonic partners of Mayone, the umbrella-wielding summoner voiced by Michelle Ruff in the 3DS re-release.
You're much deeper into this than I'd first thought. I thought that I would send you out with a glorious bang.
Presumably, the umbrella helps keep her dry from her nope-rope demon partner. Speaking of the torrential Mizuchi, Revelation's Persona has a slightly altered version of that design, and it appears as a demon simply known as Water Asp, which I think sounds like a very poorly received brand of at-home enemas. Mizuchi appears as an early game demon in both Demi-Kid's light and dark versions, where it's known in English as Tsunami, but doesn't really have much of a presence in either title. However, in the often-neglected RTS sequel, Devil Children Messiahriser, Tsunami, who is still called Mizuchi here because this game is only in Japanese, appears as one of the first demons to try and kill the protagonists, and must be fought off by Jin and his partner Rand. Mizuchi also has a small role in Digital Devil Saga 2. In an early dungeon, the group will be attacked by two Karma soldiers who transform into Mizuchi and Pabilsag, and these two severed the wires to a switch that you need to activate to proceed. And not to undermine Mizuchi's abilities, but I have to assume it was Pabilsag who handled the actual snipping. No, Mizuchi's largest, most prominent role in the franchise is naturally his appearance in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where he gets to show off his brand new design by acting as the warden and boss fight in Kabukicho Prison. Like most bosses in Nocturne, Mizuchi has a bit of a gimmick. While he starts out incredibly large and capable of using powerful ice spells, as you do damage to him, he'll shrink in size, question if you're getting larger, and be forced to use weaker spells, meaning his gimmick is basically that he just gets weaker as the fight goes on. Given that a large part of his mythology and his dungeon in Nocturne is centered around mirages and illusions, it does raise the question of whether he was ever actually big, or if hunting him just made his tricks less effective. Either way, after beating him, the Demi-Fiend will get the Miasma Magatama, and Futomimi, the mannequin, will thank you for defeating Mizuchi. Mizuchi is also one of a small handful of demons that can evolve in Nocturne, and will transform into Qinglong, the Azure Dragon in Chinese mythology, after learning all of his skills, provided the Demi-Fiend is a high enough level. And that's basically it. Outside of re-releases like Soul Hackers 3DS or Nocturne HD Remaster, Mizuchi hasn't shown up in the franchise in nearly 20 years, with its last appearance being in the MMO title Shin Megami Tensei Imagine in 2007. Which is the year I graduated from high school. Almost 20 years ago, so God, I'm old. But I like to hold on to hope. With this being the Year of the Snake, maybe a miracle can happen for our slippery little friend. The only question for Atlas is, hey, what are you waiting for? Happy New Year! And there you have it, Mizuchi, the slippery swimming snake seen slithering slightly swiftly through streams and seas. Did I leave out something you thought was important? Was I just plain wrong about something? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see me talk about in future episodes. That's going to do it for this episode of the Demonic Compendium, and I will see you next time. But be careful while you rest that a demon doesn't take over your body.